Hi, so real quick, this is very high poly. So what we need to do is retop this, bake it down, and make it way low poly. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to click this, which is the Make Live. Then we're going to go to our modeling toolkit and go to Quad Draw. So Quad Draw is really great because it allows us to just create quads. So I'm just clicking here, and by the way, let's turn on our topology so we can kind of see it, so you can see how high poly this is right now. And then when you press Shift, you are able to change change or make this an actual quad. And you can also left mouse grab the edges and like move them as you need to. So you can also grab them before you make them into a quad. And there's other things. There's like if you hit Shift, that relaxes it. So there's some really great things that we can do here in order to make this low poly. So I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to retop this for you and just kind of show you what it looks like at the end of retopping it. And then I'm going to show you how you can then bake down these textures. So this is a pretty similar exercise to the baking of the color ID map. All right, so let me pause this. Just a second, sorry about that. I have to find my pause. To add a subdivision, you can press Control, and that will add a subdivision really quickly. Okay, so we have finished retopping, and what we want to do is we want to basically shrink wrap this high poly to the low poly. So we're going to select the low poly, or the low poly to the high poly. So we're going to select the low poly, we're going to select the high poly, and go to Deform Shrink Wrap. And then we are going to shrink wrap, sorry about the background noise. And once we have finished shrink wrapping, we are going to select the retop and we are going to delete its history. So now the history is deleted. And the next steps that we are going to take is to bake the polys. All right, so now that we have both of these, what we're going to do is we're going to select our retop low poly, and I actually went to rendering, lighting and shading, transfer maps, and this opened. And so I'm going to add the low poly to the retop, and I'm going to add the high poly to the source meshes, and then I am going to change display to envelope. Now what we want to do is we want to kind of cover up the high poly, so I'm going to set it to, let's try 1. That's pretty good. What we can do is we can do 1.2, and that'll make it a little bit bigger. So once we have done that, we want to select normal. Then we're going to click the file folder right here. We can do it. And we're just going to save it here. I'm going to save it as a Targa, and I'm just going to call this normal Enviro normal underscore normal. And you'll see that it changed to a target here. And then we are going to go to the Maya Common Material Output. I'm going to do 2048 by 2048. I'm going to do a medium sampling quality. I think it should be fine. And let's move this up a bit so we can see it a little bit more. Sorry about this. I understand my recording data isn't getting the bottom part. And then once we do that, we are going to bake and close. Now it's going to create a new shader, which is what we want, and we already have said what we want to name it. So let's bake and close and see how it looks. And I'm going to pause the video and we'll come back. Make sure that you lay out the UVs actually before you bake down the textures. If you don't lay out the UVs, it's not going to happen. The other thing you want to do is you also want to make sure that you soften edges for your normals. If you don't soften edges, what's going to happen is you're going to get something that actually looks like this. So when I render this out, this is what my bake looks like because I didn't soften my edges. So now that you see what that looks like, remember to soften your edges. We're going to redo the bake, and it should be just fine when we redo it. Okay, so we finished rebaking, and this time it looks fantastic. So now we have this relatively low poly environment, and we have baked down all that high poly information into a flat texture. So let's take a look at a couple of those things. So I'm going to go, this was the original one. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and we are going to open our environment normal 2. And here it is. So this is our normal map. This is all that high poly information baked down into a flat map. And let me show you where this goes. So we also made a brand new Lambert shader. It automatically generated when we baked all this information down. And this is it. It was called like Lambert 3 or 4, and I renamed it. Enviro_matte, matte for material. And as you can see in the bump mapping channel, there is a black arrow. This is where the attachment was made, and we click on it and we can see there's our texture. If we click this little arrow here to go back, we can see that this is where our bump depth is, so we can affect this. And then we always want to use a normal map as a tangent space normal. So a bump map is a bump and tangent space normal. That's what we want. So the little drop down was automatically applied. So now if we take a look at what our camera sees, so this is what our camera sees. And let's go high so we can really see all that high poly information that was modeled previously. So we're going to go over here to our render the current frame. And this is it. This is our normal map. And as you can see, it looks really, really great. If you don't want it to be quite that bumpy, and actually let's go over here and re-render it out so we can see it and make it bigger. So if you're like, well, this information is a little bit too bumpy, we can go over here to the bump depth and we can lower that information. So I'm going to save this render and I'm going to re-render it out. And let's make it bigger. So here's the before and here's the after. And that's how you can optimize your workflow and your file size and all those fun things, because having something that's that high poly as the original model is really going to slow down your processing power, and it's going to make your render time a lot longer. But if we can take down that information to a nice flat file material, then it's going to speed up the entire process. All right, I hope you found this helpful. Till next time, it's Maya Andreasen.